Fast Lawyer VR Reviews. For sexy VR reviews, hit the subscribe button. Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. Today we're going to review Horizon Call of the Mountain VR, a game that was released exclusively for PSVR 2 on February 22nd, 2023. It was developed by Guerrilla Games and Firesprite. It normally retails for $60. I bought it as part of the PSVR 2 bundle. Horizon VR is an action-adventure game which features archery and lots of climbing. It is a very linear, story-driven game. It took me approximately 8 hours to complete the game. There are some side activities that you can do towards the end, and I'll include a clip of one of those activities, which is going on a machine safari. The platforming does include some slight puzzle elements, but this is all very casual difficulty. You basically always have an ability that will guide you to where you need to go or what items you can interact with. There are some secret areas to discover, and there's some objects that you can interact with, such as playing with instruments, banging on drums, ringing the bells. A lot of the vistas and backdrops are simply breathtaking to view, plus there's some semi-hidden targets you can shoot at. Finally, there is a challenge course where you can test your archery skills on some targets, as well as practice your parkour skills in an obstacle course. Outside of the challenge course, however, there is not much replayability here. Now, I did run into some technical issues while playing this game. The biggest issue was when I first reached the snowy area, my PS5 PSVR 2 started stuttering heavily in this area. I don't know why, but not only did it stutter, but the voices all went slower and deeper, and it was just very weird given that the game ran smoothly outside of this area. The only other issues I ran into were, I think, because of my setup or lighting. I did have some tracking issues as far as grabbing arrows from my shoulder, or when I would climb, my hands wouldn't always be properly aligned. You can play this game either seated or standing. I did play it both ways. I did find this game to be easier if you played it standing. The combat sections and the climbing will be a lot easier if you play standing, just because it's easier to turn around and do those actions needed. There are lots of different gameplay settings. You do have full locomotion, stick locomotion. You do also have gesture locomotion, which is just basically like an arm swing locomotion type movement. You have smooth and snap turning. You can choose the degree of turn or the speed of turn. You also have comfort options. You have different vignette options as well. You can choose left or right dominant hand. You can also turn on eye tracking, which makes your many selections done by gaze. I didn't find it especially useful, but some people might enjoy it more. You also have settings to make the game easier. By default, I believe auto assist is on. I suggest turning it off to make this game more of a challenge. I think the game by default is just a little too easy. To be honest, I never really felt in danger from the combat in this game. The boss fights are just too easy because you always have an unlimited supply of apples that you can eat from to regain health. And in the boss fights, it's basically just an arena where you slide to the left or right to dodge enemy incoming attacks. And this mechanic just makes the boss fights a little bit on the trivial side. You do have to make your shots, obviously, especially if you turn aim assist off, but none of them are especially difficult because you have unlimited dodges. As long as you don't forget to dodge the enemy attacks, you'll be fine. And even if you miss, even if you don't dodge in time, as long as you keep eating apples, you will never die in these boss fights. And that's a shame because a lot of these boss fights are interesting in theory. They have different abilities, different weak points. If the combat were just attuned differently, I think these boss fights would be amazing in VR. But the whole arena setup where all you can do is dodge versus move normally, you can only dodge to the left or right or walk slowly to the left or right versus your normal locomotion, it really brings down the challenge level. So while in theory these boss fights are different, in practice they all felt the same because I was repeating the same actions, dodge to the left, dodge to the right, shoot lots of arrows. It didn't really matter what type of arrows I used, and just remember to eat an apple if I was dying. While there is lots of combat in this game, I don't think it's the focus of the game. I actually think that climbing is the focus of the game. Exploration through climbing is the best part of this game, where you get to explore this very beautiful Horizon world. Like I mentioned, there are some slight puzzle elements where you need to figure out how to get from point A to point B, but they're not really difficult at all to figure out. And it is especially fun to zipline across this world, going down great heights, rappel down, zipline, and use all these cool little toys that you have at your disposal to traverse across this world. And while I did enjoy the climbing, and I would say this game is good overall, I really think that the climbing, the platforming was a missed opportunity. The main problem is that the climbing has no stamina system, so therefore you can just climb, hang out, and you're never in real danger. If you have played the climb either 1 or 2, you know that the climbing system there is absolutely excellent. And here, without that stamina system, you can just grab on to whatever for whatever amount of time that you want. So unfortunately, you're never really in danger. And on top of that, whenever there is a jump in the parkour, the game automatically slows down time for you, making those jumps not feel as adrenaline filled as they should. The jumps should feel scary and they should be difficult. Instead, since time is slowed down, all sense of danger is taken away, all sense of challenge, it just dumbs it down too much. And that pretty much covers all the gameplay here. Like I mentioned, there are some slight puzzle sections, and there's some crafting where you'll craft some arrows or new toys to play with later on, and obviously you're going to be looting in order to do that. But for the most part, you're either in combat or you're mostly climbing, doing parkour sections. That brings us down to the story, and I don't want to do any spoilers, so I'm going to leave this portion kind of vague. Obviously, you're not Aloy, but she does make a very brief experience early on in the game. Instead, you are Reyes, who is a former rebel who's trying to redeem himself. And as part of your sentence to atone for your crimes, you are tasked with investigating a new threat to the kingdom. Now, for VR, I do think the story was very good. The voice actors, the animations all were top notch, but I do think the story itself could have had more depth to it. It does feel like the story was maybe a bit rushed and just didn't have enough depth there. There's the usual brotherly rivalry thrown in there, but there just isn't much to the story. And Reyes just never feels like a full-fledged character, and I think it does bring the weight of the story down. Now, overall, I did enjoy this game, and I do recommend it. I do think Horizon Call of the Mountain is a good game, but unfortunately, I think it falls short of greatness. The visuals here are top-notch. There is not a better looking game in VR, and Horizon Call of the Mountain is a must-play in my opinion, simply because of that fact. This is the best looking game in VR. Unfortunately, the story and the gameplay are not nearly as good. I think what happened here is the developers really targeted this game for new VR players, for casual gamers, so they just made the climbing sections not as challenging as they should have been, and the combat not as exciting as it should have been. On the other hand, there are some really nice moments in this game. Like I mentioned, there's just some gorgeous vistas, plus all the instruments that you can play in, and there are some exciting platforming sections, especially going down the zip lines. I'm giving Horizon Call of the Mountain VR a 7 out of 10. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. This has been my review for Horizon Call of the Mountain VR. If you enjoyed my review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Scrappers, shell walkers, watchers. This river's getting busy. I wonder what it's carrying. out for those snap moths. This is why I never go swimming. Bellow back. Any day you don't get turned into charcoal is a good day. Thunderjaw. This is one of those moments where I wish I'd stayed back in Meridian. Yeah. Keep running.